This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Feast or Famine, Part 4. When we left off, Stephanie and Pastor Corey were headed to a dinner that caught Stephanie completely by surprise. LJ and Q had a conversation with Deuce where they gave him a strong warning concerning Angela's safety. When the discussion concluded, Deuce left with a temporary job offer, and LJ and Q agreed to keep an eye on him and revisit the conversation at a later date. Shortly thereafter, Ron, the attorney representing Angela, came in to meet with the guys. LJ updated both men on what he could related to the federal investigation, and then Ron dropped the bomb. Listen, man, I talked with one of my contacts in DPD, and this is wild. You're not going to believe this. Q said, give it to me straight, man. Ron said, well, and pulled out a photo. Then he said, this car was caught on DPD CCTV following Amoura on the highway and off the exit to her house. It's not one of yours, is it? Q looked at the pic and said, nah, I had folks on her, but they didn't have to follow her. Ron said, I figured as much. Well, this car was on CCTV multiple days that week following Amoura home. Each night it was on CCTV shortly thereafter heading away from her home. But not that night. That night it was in Amoura's neighborhood till well after midnight. We know that because it and its driver was captured on one of her neighbor's home surveillance cameras. It was parked several blocks away from her house, and late that night an individual was seen exiting the vehicle dressed in all black and wearing a ski mask, carrying a small device and an electric jack. He or she jogged down the street to where Amoura's car was parked, used the electronic jack to lift the front end of her vehicle, slid underneath the vehicle, was under there for only a matter of moments, came back out without the small device, released the jack, jogged back down to the car, and drove off. Based on the height and build, it was clearly not Angela. But investigators are unable to determine whether it was a male or a female, black, white, Hispanic, young, old. The good thing is, Angela has a rock-solid alibi for each time this vehicle was caught on CCTV and the neighbor's surveillance cameras. The kicker is, the day that this surveilling first began, Captain Arrington had a visitor. He told his sister to have somebody go by the house and take out his trash. When the agents in North Carolina followed up on this, they never saw anybody coming or going from Arrington's house, so they believed that that was a code. Arrington put the hit out on Amoura. What they don't know is who received that message and who carried it out. Q said, so Arrington not only killed Amoura, but he had no concern for my son and his safety? They were following her for several days. Then they know that on Wednesday mornings, she takes my son to school. LJ said, well, in all fairness, I think most people know that school was closed that Wednesday. Q said, nonetheless, she had to work that Wednesday. How did they know she was taking a day off? Either way, had she left to take my son to Bible study, he wouldn't be here right now. LJ said, this might be one instance, bro, where you gotta thank God that she was so into you. You said, and whoever's behind this better pray to God that I don't find them first. At that same time, Stephanie and Pastor Corey pull up outside the Mansion restaurant. Stephanie looks at him and says, CT, you didn't have to do all of this. Pastor Corey said, of course I did. This is a big birthday for you. Stephanie said, right, but you and my sister gave me a huge birthday dinner and party yesterday. CT said, right, and now you and I get to have some one-on-one time. He got out of the car and like a gentleman, he walked around to the passenger side, helped her out, and they headed inside. Inside, Stephanie was blown away. She'd never been to a restaurant of this particular caliber. She looked at CT and said, how did you find this place? He said, Q recommended it. I asked for referrals, checked the place out, and I knew it would be perfect for tonight. Stephanie looked at Corey and said, what are you up to? He said, be patient, love. You'll see. The couple enjoyed a beautiful candlelight dinner, and when it was over, Pastor Corey drove Stephanie back to the Ritz-Carlton. Stephanie was a little confused. She thought for sure tonight was the night that CT would propose. But when he pulled up at the valet stand and told her that he was going to walk her up to her room, she was slightly disappointed. CT asked, "Did you have a good time?" Stephanie said, I did. Thank you for a wonderful evening." When they got to Stephanie's room and she unlocked the door, she was in for the surprise of a lifetime. The entire room was decorated in red rose petals. The room was washed in candlelight. There was soft music playing, and when she turned around to look at Corey, he was on one knee. Stephanie said, "Oh my God, I thought the night was over." CT said, "Oh, I know you did." Corey looked Stephanie in her eyes and said, "Stephanie, I've met a lot of women in my line of business, both in the church and in law enforcement. But in all of these years, I've never met a woman quite like you. You are the perfect mix of fire and ice. You're a rider and a shooter, and I love that about you. I could travel the whole world over, and I would never find a woman who fills my heart, makes me laugh, and drives me crazy like you. And the truth is, I wouldn't want to, because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Stephanie looked at Corey and said, "I will, as long as you promise not to ask me to wear them ugly church hats, because I'm not going to be that kind of first lady. I just ain't got it in me. As long as you understand that I still cuss a little, and that I bash somebody head to the white meat if they play with my family. And that I'm not for all of that kikiing and smiling and grinning in your face either. I don't care if those women are parishioners and pay their tithes at the church. And I'm not going to be talking to women all hours of the night about their personal problems and trying to tell them how to get closer to God, because I ain't signed up for none of that. Now, if you could deal with all of that, yep, I'm ready. Let's do this thing." Pastor Corey got up off his knee and said, "See what I mean? Fire and ice. And I love every bit of it. Baby, I don't need you to change. I don't need you to be my mother or any other stereotypical first lady. I just need you to be Steph." Stephanie said, "Then let's do this, baby." She kissed Corey passionately and deeply, and then she said, "Do we still gotta wait for the wedding night?" Corey said, "Baby, I'm gonna slide this ring on your finger. I'm gonna give you another kiss, and I'm gonna head out. And tomorrow morning, you're gonna meet me at church for 8 a.m. service, where we're gonna make the announcement. And then in the afternoon, we're gonna celebrate with family and friends. Is that okay?" Steph said, "That's fine. But we're gonna have to have this wedding soon, because I'm not gonna be able to look at you dressed like this, smelling good like this, and go but much longer without getting some. And I'm not joking." CT slid the ring on her finger, and then he said, "And therein lies the problem, because I don't know how much longer I can wait either, baby." Stephanie looked down, realizing she never even looked at the ring before she said yes. On her finger was a color D, VVS1, radiant cut, conflict-free, 2-carat, Pav Camille solitaire engagement ring. If you don't know, the color, clarity, and cut of this ring was impeccable. The next morning, Pastor Corey preached the best sermon of his life, and then he announced his engagement to Stephanie in front of a packed church and his entire family. His parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins, Pastor Robbins Jr. and Pastor Tanya, flew in just for this announcement. At 11 a.m. service, the Washington, the Johnsons, the St. Jameses, all the significant others and children were in attendance for the second announcement, and the church was packed again. Immediately after the congratulatory refreshments at the church, the family headed back to the estate, where Angela and Regina had another surprise. Veronica was on hand for styling, Jada was on hand for makeup, and a professional photography team was on the grounds ready to take family photos and for Stephanie and Corey's engagement photos. Veronica was even hired to stage the backyard picnic area and the interior foyer in front of the circular wrought iron staircase. How they were able to keep all of those photos organized, I have no idea. Because at that point, the families were so blended together that each family had to swap people in and out and get groups together and then get groups separated. It was a lot, but it got done. Immediately after the photos, Angela hosted an engagement lunch on her back lawn, and more guests arrived, including Tracy, Deuce, and their new baby. Angela even asked Jade and the photographers to stay for lunch. While there were multiple conversations going on at once, Regina peeped that Jada and Veronica were involved in a pretty heated discussion. Thank goodness she couldn't hear what was being said. Jada said, "Damn, Nikki," Veronica's nickname. "Who is that?" Veronica said, "Who is who?" Looking around to see who Jada was talking about, Jada said, "That fine chocolate brother right there, the tall one with the Caesar and the dimples." Veronica said, "That's cute, and he's taken. That's his woman right over there, Angela, the woman whose house we're in." Jada said, "Are they married?" Veronica said, "No, they're not married." Jada said, "Well, baby, he's single then." Veronica said, "No, he's not. And if you know like I know, you'll keep your eyes and your hands to yourself, Jada. I know how you do." Jada said, "That's for him to decide. I'ma have to find out and see for myself." Veronica said, "And you gonna get your whole and entire behind whooped like his baby mama did if you see for yourself." Meanwhile, at the other side of the table, Angela asked Stephanie, "So have you all set a date?" Stephanie said, "Yep, 6 months." Angela said, "Dang, sis, what's the hurry? You knocked up?" Stephanie said, "Girl, no. The hurry is abstinence is not for me." Angela chuckled and said, "Oh, dear God, you can't be serious. Girl, do you know how hard it is to find a venue and vendors and all of that in 6 months?" Stephanie said, "We don't really need a venue. We're going to clearly get married at the Salvation Center of Dallas. All we need is a place for the reception." Angela asked, "Well, do you at least plan to move to Dallas before the wedding so that you can help with this planning?" Stephanie said, "Yes, I do, but I will not be moving into this estate. It is crowded." Then she leaned over Angela and said, "Tracy, can you help me find a cute little condo in downtown Dallas? I mean, it'll be temporary, but you know." Angela said, "Crowded? As big as this estate is, girl, there is more than enough room for you, and you'll have privacy." Regina said, "Right. Me and my family are moving out in a matter of weeks, and Angela and the kids and Miss Brenda will be moving in with Q soon, too." When she said that, all eyes were on Angela. Angela said, "We're not moving anytime soon," and looked back down at her plate. Marcia, recognizing Angela's discomfort with the conversation, butted in and said, "Well, Stephanie, if you're getting a condo, how would you feel about having a housemate? That way, when you move out in a matter of months, I can stay." Angela looked at Marcia and said, "Are you moving to Dallas too?" Marcia said, "Girl, yes. I'm actually joining a practice here. That's what I wanted to talk to you and Mom Brenda about." Angela squealed and said, "Yay!" Then Rennie said, "Well, can we get a 3-bedroom condo? Because I'm moving to Dallas too." And all of the women cheered. As all of the women started ogling over Stephanie's ring, Angela looked up and her and Q locked eyes. He'd heard the whole conversation.